Good day to you and welcome to another Venruki video. In today's video, we are going to be going over kind of an analysis of what happened post AWC for Cup number 2, some of the upcoming changes to WoW, and what classes that I think are going to kind of rise to power, what compositions do I think are going to rise to power, and some of the changes we are going to see. So if you guys are interested in PvP meta and what I think about it, what's to come, what classes will be strong, what classes will be weak, this is definitely the video to watch. So we're going to start off in Europe with exactly what happened there. So this week was a little bit of a different story, and I'd say in general it was a bit of a different story. It felt like last week it was all about Rogue Mage Priest, but kind of as expected, once certain classes hit the double legendary threshold, because the double legendary doesn't really benefit fire mages that much, some certain specs have kind of risen to power. And people have kind of figured out some answers for RMP. So in North America, in Europe, the finals was actually Kungana, once again, who kind of just ride or die with that Rogue Mage Priest, Meh, Raikou, and Chaz, and Waz, obviously, on that Rogue, versus SK Pieces. And SK Pieces, they brought some interesting compositions. Once again, of course, the Warrior Mage, but this time they actually brought in Asgrath on the Restoration Druid instead of favoring that Holy Priest. They brought in the Elemental Shaman Fire Mage, and then my personal favorite, of course, you guys know me, if you guys watch any of my videos, the Frost Mage Destruction Warlock, and this is a composition that kind of carried them to victory. So we could take a look at the stats of what was really, really strong. So we see the Holy Priest, obviously still ridiculous. I mean, I would go so far as to say, it's definitely overpowered compared to the other healers. So I wouldn't be surprised if Holy Priest got some tuning. Obviously, you don't want to gut it. You want it to be really strong. But I mean, you're seeing 0 Shaman win. Paladins actually did a lot better in North America. So Paladins, I think, are okay. Restoration Druids, I think, are okay. Don't really see any Mistweavers either. And of course, the Discipline Priest didn't do too great. Even the jungle teams switched over from Disc to Holy, although I do still think Discipline Priest has a place in the meta right now. So Holy Priest, basically the story. You can see all the top compositions. The Frost Mage Destruction Warlock, a composition I played a lot last season, and it was okay, but with some of the changes to the 2-set, the 4-set, as well as the double trinket. So I think for casters in general, getting a lot more intellect. This is something to think about. The old trinket bonus used to be a versatility buff, which I think wasn't as favored towards a lot of these casters, like the Frost Mage Destruction Warlock, Affliction Warlock, as an example. And now that it's a straight int buff, I think it actually gives us, the damage was more favorable towards casters, I think, with that intellect. And yeah, kind of seeing it rise to power. So you can see the top comps this week were the Frost Mage Destruction Warlock. You got the Fire Mage, as well as the Fury Warrior. I think this is still a very powerful composition. The Destruction Warlock with the Assassination Rogue, the Rogue Mage Priest. Jungle seemed really, really strong. There's only, I think the only team that was able to beat the jungle, I do believe, was of course going to be SK Pieces with their Warrior Fire Mage. So yeah, jungle didn't do too bad. Oh, they also lost to RMP. But I think jungle's one of those compositions that could rise to power. We are seeing some changes this week as well. But yeah, I think it's going to be a story of Destruction Warlocks. We've seen a lot of Destruction Warlocks, and I think there's still a bunch of compositions kind of yet to be discovered. So in terms of top specs, you still see the Holy Priest, Fire Mage, Destro Warlock, Frost Mage, surprising. Frost Mage, I would say at this point, basically has one valuable composition, and it's a Mage Warlock, one tournament valuable composition. And with how strong Destruction Warlocks are, the Deathborn build, I just think it pairs really, really nicely. So I think for next week, teams are got to figure out what is going to be good into that Frost Destro. And I do think there's some answers. For example, I feel like Death Knight Warrior, like a really solid TSG, can be difficult to. They have such high uptime on the mage, you can really limit their damage. The problem is, I haven't actually played it on the live servers with the Destruction Warlock that has a 4-set, so it seems like they can just one-shot people. And they're getting some changes next week too. They're actually getting buffed, so it'll be really, really interesting to see. So that's kind of the story of Europe. In North America, we had actually Team Liquid win this week. They brought in a bunch of compositions as well. They brought in the Windwalker Fire Mage. They brought in the Death Knight Windwalker, which is something they've been known for quite some time. And in the finals, they played against the Powermen, who tried a few different things. Thugonomics with the Destruction Warlock, very strong days on the Assassination Rogue. So they played some Holy Priest, Destruction, Assassination, which is a comp we've seen in both North America and Europe. Also, the Fire Mage, Destruction Warlock. Now, personally, I don't think that a Fire variant is as good as the Frost variant. I just don't think you have that same kind of double threat, like a Warlock with full cooldowns. Basically, the way I see Mage Lock is a Warlock with full cooldowns is something you absolutely have to run away from, and a Frost Mage with full cooldowns is something you absolutely have to run away from, and you kind of rotate those two cooldowns is the way you're supposed to play it. So on the first go, you maybe use the Destruction Warlock cooldowns. On the second, you use the Frost Mage or vice versa, and it constantly keeps the enemy team on the back foot. Fire Mage just didn't seem to have that pressure. Like, it felt like they could just kind of go after Thugonomics for extended periods of time, and they weren't really punished that much for it. So I could easily see, well, I don't know if it's easy, but I think Ankh should probably pick up the Frost Mage. I think against some of the compositions Team Liquid has, it's probably better, but then again, I feel like Team Liquid also might have some answers for that. A big surprise in North America was Kawhi finishing in 4th, I do believe, which is not their best showing, but I mean, it's 4. So many good teams. It's hilarious to say that like 4th is like a disappointment to them. All the RMPs in North America, so Novos 3.5 men, and then Unitas, I think they finished in 6th, 7th, 8th. So they got eliminated. I could be wrong about that, but it's somewhere in there. And then, of course, Peekaboo's team. This is one of my favorite things. Biggest surprises, I think, was seeing the Outlaw Rogue Beast Mastery Hunter. So we saw them kind of flex a little bit. The Golden Guardians, they brought in the Rogue Mage Paladin. They brought in the Outlaw Rogue Thug, and it looked insane. I think the biggest surprise to me outside of Destruction Warlocks was how good the Outlaw Rogue Thug looked, as well in Europe as the Outlaw Rogue Destruction Warlocks. So I think these are two compositions that could see a little bit more play. Peekaboo's team, or Golden Guardians, is probably likely the only team that would be able to run it in a tournament, but I think in terms of ladder, I would not sleep on Outlaw Rogues. If there's any specs, take a look at the specs here. I kind of want to go over like what specs I think are going to be the top, so we can definitely go over that. But you can see in North America, by the way, I do want to shout out Drustvar. If you guys haven't ever seen Drustvar before, I highly recommend you guys go check it out. It's where I go for all my information. Yeah, this video is not sponsored by Drustvar, but it's a great website to go check out tons of things. You can look at the leaderboards, what happened to the AWC, you know, all the things going on in PvP. I would definitely check it out. So yeah, shout out to Drustvar for this information. Appreciate it. But yeah, you can see the Windwalker Death Knight, Frost Death Knight. I didn't expect the Frost Death Knight to do as well as the Unholy, because I don't really see it on the ladder that much. But in the tournament setting, they actually went 6-0 with this composition. So Windwalker DK could be back. Windwalkers definitely seem strong with their 4-set. Of course, you have the Assassination Rogue Shadow Priest Paladin. That got played a lot, mostly Kawhi playing that, Golden Guardians as well. But a little bit of a similar story. So if we compare the top specs, Holy Priest Fire Mage in both North America and Europe. A little bit more Destro play. Not really, I mean, very similar amount of Destros. But yeah, it's interesting to see. I think, like I said, the biggest surprise for me was the Outlaw Rogue coming in from both sides. The Frost Death Knight. I really still think that cleaves are being underplayed a little bit. Especially with full power. I think compositions like Windwalker Death Knight and Warrior Death Knight in particular are going to see a rise to power. There's no doubt in my mind. I think a good team, once they practice it and they have those prepared, the Warrior Death Knight I think will be really, really strong. But we'll have to wait and see exactly how it goes. One thing is for sure, I do expect Destruction Warlocks to see a lot of play. They could even rise, you know, to the power of Fire Mages and perhaps even surpass it. So we could talk about some of the changes that are incoming also. So Unholy Death Knights, didn't see the most play, but I do think Unholy is really strong, like I said, with that TSG composition. So this is just another reason to maybe start playing that cleave setup. Feral Druids are getting some really nice buffs, so a jungle could be even scarier, to be honest with you. The Feral Hunter, BM Hunter is getting some buffs. So, I mean, these three changes are horrifying. Elemental Shaman are getting some damage buffs. So the Fire Mage Elemental Shaman from Zeepai, and this is something I talked about on broadcast as well. So I feel like the Warlock, Destruction Warlock Elemental Shaman could be another comp. I definitely want to see teams experiment with that, because I feel like traditionally Elemental Shaman Warlock has kind of been King Caster in terms of like wizard mirrors. So it might be a viable kind of wizard counter to Frost Mage Destruction Warlock. I'd have to wait and see. And then, of course, this is the big story, is the Destruction Warlock getting a 5% buff. I mean, with Dark Soul, we're seeing Destruction Warlocks literally combo people for like, you know, a 38,000 Chaos Bolt into a 42,000 Chaos Bolt, and that's getting buffed. So I think Destruction Warlock stocks are definitely going up. The reason why you might not see it so much on the ladder is because people don't have 4 set, but I promise you, once people get their 4 set, this is going to absolutely terrorize the ladder. Like Destruction Warlock Windwalker, Destruction Warlock Warrior, Destruction Warlock Rogue, Destruction Warlock Mage, Destruction Warlock Elemental Shaman, Double Destruction Warlock. Like it's gonna be nuts. And then of course an Ignore Pain buff for Warriors. Not exactly sure what's going on with that one. These are all PvE changes, but of course they will affect the PvP meta. But yeah, that's kind of my take on what happened. If you guys liked the video, give it a like. What do you guys think is going to happen in the coming weeks? I think the AWC, kind of the story now is you got to figure out what's going to be good against Mage Lock. Not only do you have to figure out what's good against like Rogue Mage, which is like the most obvious thing to prepare for, now you got to figure out what's good against Mage Lock. I do think there's some answers, like maybe DH Boomkin, TSG, like I said, a counter caster cleave could be an option, but we'll have to wait and see exactly what teams decide to do. But yeah, as players on the ladder get their 4 sets, things are going to get crazy, especially from the Destruction Warlock. So look out for that. Make friends with your Destruction Warlock, because it's definitely a spec you're going to want to play with. Yeah, let me know if you guys agree with me, you disagree with me, what your thoughts are on this. If you guys like this video, like the video. And yeah, this video I actually put in my mouse cursor, so thumbs up for that, so you guys could follow along. I said I would do that from the last video. You guys requested it, so got it done. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Check out my stream, twitch.tv/Venruki. I'll see you there live every single morning. And that's it. That's all. Bye-bye.